Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins. I'll be your host today. And I have the immense pleasure of hosting Miss Kelsey Kenney for her third interview. So before I bring her on, I just wanted to make a few announcements. I see she's in the backstage there, and we'll probably just be on audio due to connection kind of things, which I'm used to, and that's totally fine. I know what she looks like, and she's beautiful. So there's lots coming up right now, and I want to make sure and tell you now because we're going to really get into the depths of brain and breath food very soon. And let me see if I can make that banner actually stay on. Hello? Oh, weird. Okay. They got new features here, and sometimes they add to the functionality, and sometimes they complicate the crap out of the functionality. As a matter of fact, I wanted to get a vote from people about the two streams. One is like vertical, one's horizontal, that go to YouTube now. Should I be doing that? Does it just water down the one stream or something like that? Are people using it liking that? Is there any reason for it? It's one of the things. So, oh, look at this. Best live on the internet, two sexy brains. So good. Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I find intelligence and brains to be very sexy. I can actually be lured. Now, don't tell anyone this, but I can be lured by intelligence alone. So I have to keep an eye on that. And Kelsey's definitely one of the smart ones. But before we get started, let me tell you about what's coming up. So in the House of Free Will, which is my private association, we actually have it's a kind of Love Your Liver fest over the next few days and the weekend. And in the House of Free Will, we have our own private Love Your Liver group because a lot of the people in my world have seen the wisdom of the Love Your Liver nutrition detective approach to health, of which Kelsey is a practitioner and a really good advocate and very knowledgeable about. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow for a meetup. It just is so nice to jump on, talk to people about their experiences. What have they noticed changing? Where are they bumping up against trouble? I don't give advice, but by this point, 14 months into it, I do have a fair amount of knowledge, and often people can really get something out of that. So we've been enjoying those every couple of weeks. And there's also House of Free Will Roundtable in Law coming up. We're doing the Foundations of English Law as a series, which doesn't sound very sexy at all, but guess what? The truth is sexy. And going down to the foundations of law is exactly how you get out of all of the psyops of our alternative law world, just like the natural health world. And that leads me to letting you know that tomorrow is our regularly scheduled Beth of Fresh Air podcast, which is always Friday at 2 p.m. Central. I'm hosting Dagmar Stansova again to do the Decult Natural Health Part 2. And she's got a list of 27 things that she has direct experience with. We don't know if we're going to get all the way through the 27 of them, but we'll definitely pick the highlights. And then I'm going to be recording an interview with Garrett Smith, who is the creator of the Love Your Liver platform. And we're going to be I'm going to be interviewing him to give the basics on toxic bile theory, but this will not be live or on my channels. It's going to be coming out on his. So you want to go and subscribe to Nutrition Detective on YouTube. That's where he does all of his lives and posts his videos. And then coming up on Monday, Alex Michael, who is the conspiracy music guru. If you're not familiar with him, he's done a lot of music over the pandemic, especially. And we're going to go deep into solfeggio sound and what is the secret of that thing that I like and I don't know anything about. So I'm really excited to host him. He's a really cool guy. I haven't had the pleasure to meet him yet. And then we got Christmas, where it's going to be a little quiet, but coming up December 29, Jacob Lieberman is coming on to talk about the eyes and seeing and the depths to which we can see beyond the eyes. He's a great guy. I don't think he woke up to the agendas, at least not the last time I talked to him, but he's so full of wisdom in other ways. I couldn't resist inviting him for another one. And then you should know also that my course creator code, which is filling up nicely, I'm super excited to be hosting this. The early bird is only on until December 29th. So if you haven't heard about it, you haven't seen it, I'm going to share a link in the chat so that people can take a look at that. It's about becoming a visioneer and a creator next level. Maybe you're already there. This is and you just want to grow exponentially. That's kind of where I'm at. So Creator Code, for those of you who don't know, is a 12-week journey designed to free you from the unconscious patterns that shape your choices, your vision, and your future. The tagline on the course is deprogramming your future, because we don't want to go into it with fear and driven by all the wrong things. So it's going to be through archetype work, somatic practice, emotional mastery, small supportive pods that are optional but very good for accountability and practice. And in the process, you'll be able to unravel the patterns that are rooted in fear, survival, and all of our conditioning, and reconnect with a natural ability to see clearly and choose clearly and create from freedom rather than from fear. And Maya, hello, welcome. You're saying the video is not there. You mean you can't see me here right now? If you don't mind to clarify, that would be awesome. And hello, Jasper. Welcome. Come and say hello in the chat. And Miss Jackie K, I'm very glad to host you here. It's audio only, Maya. We should be on camera. Yeah, no, we should be on camera. You guys can't see me? You don't know what I'm doing right now? Yeah, it's only Kelsey that's going to be off camera. So darn, it's showing me on camera. What do you guys see? So yeah, this is not audio only. It's just audio of Kelsey. So you can't see me. Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'm going to just try and see what the settings say here. I'm on my only camera. You can't see me. All right, well, we got some glitches in the... Okay, so I just turned my camera off. I'm going to turn it on again. Cannot see me. That's weird. Too bad I got all dressed up for you guys and everything. Hello, Johnny. Welcome. Well, I don't think I'm going to delay anymore. I really can't imagine why that might be. And so it looks like that's on Facebook and YouTube. So that makes me think that there's something wrong with StreamYard. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to delay, but I will be bringing Kelsey on. Before I do that, I'm going to introduce her. So this is a first-person bio that she's written in detail. I won't go through the whole entire thing, but basically she was very sick, born jaundiced, and had a lot of complications over the years. Like we all did, we made a lot of mistakes in the health world, whether that was with conventional system or the alternative system. And she tried exclusively conventional at the start and moved to others. And then 3 years ago had a major breakthrough when she tried flush niacin, which is a real turning point, and also came through the work of Dr. Garrett Smith. And her insights gave her clarity to a newfound understanding of the true causes of chronic illness. We're going to be going deep into niacin today because that is the very related to the brain and breath food. And she says for the first time, she began to make meaningful progress towards detox, wellness, and vitality for herself and her children. And it was a massive relief to her in many levels. Her life's work now makes sense, she says, and her degree in cell and molecular biology and her experience in biotech fields she pursued in an effort to understand her own disease finally have a proper application. She can now help herself and help others heal. She is a practitioner, a very good one. She is working directly with me behind the scenes in Love Your Liver. And oh my goodness, I've had so many amazing things. I made a list of 21 symptoms that are either gone or have been vastly reduced in 14 months on this training. So I just shared the link, Nutrition Detective. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Kelsey on. Hello, Kelsey. Welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi, Eliza. Hubba. Thank you for saying we got sexy brains here. I was just looking that up. That's called a sapiophile. Yeah. Okay. Attracted to intelligence. So,
now I have a word. That's good.
Yeah. No, we have a word. It's a good one. Yeah. So we don't need to be on camera today.
I guess not. Right. Like it just exudes out of us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let me see if I can get your banner to stay up now. Very good. And
Okay.
so we're going to go deep in this. And I have to admit off the top, Kelsey, that it was hard for me to even think of questions because cell and molecular biology are not my subject. But when I hear you, often behind the scenes in the Love Your Liver network and office hours and stuff, when you geek out on it, my brain gets hungry. I'm like, okay, I want to hear a lot more of that stuff. So definitely don't hold back, even if you feel like it's over our heads. I'm a pretty good question asker if I don't know
Mhm.
what you're talking about or need more clarification, or figure that the people taking this in would also benefit from more clarification, then I'll do that. And
Okay.
originally we were going to just talk brain food, but it turns out that you're also deep into the nutrition side of breath. So those are two very, I imagine, related um, functions, as everything is in the body. And do you want to start with, say, even the problems that people face when it comes to the brain and the breath being starving? Maybe we do have to take those one at a time.
Sure. So, well, I'll start with my own story. I it wasn't. It's not too long ago that I was going along on the program, and I had made significant gains, as you talked about in the bio, and I was doing really well. Everything made sense to me for the first time, in my life. I'm getting really healthy, and I'm still on this journey too. So I spent a long time poisoning myself. Well, not all of it was my fault. I was born jaundiced, but and it's not over yet. I still got some stuff to work on, and I certainly did. A few months ago when I discovered that my breath was what was holding me back. So basically, I give consults and everything, and we read your hair level of toxic metals. We check your blood results, and we only do a few blood tests. Those are the ones that Dr. Smith has seen over his almost 2 decades of experience. The only ones that matter, and the only ones that we might do something about too. That's another thing he always asks is like, why are you doing this test? Is it going to change what you're going to do? If not, then why are you doing that? Why are you stressing yourself out? Um, so anyway, yeah, also the formulator for that for Dr. Smith and nutrition detective, and we're coming up with all sorts of things. And the zinc salve that I made is really been very popular too. I'm particularly proud of that one, and we just got all sorts of great things in the works. But anyways, so I was still having though, and I didn't talk about this a whole lot, to everybody what I was still struggling with in my program. I was still struggling with some significant fatigue, and that was and we have a questionnaire that we give to all of our clients that say, what are the 3 most important symptoms that you want to work on today? Because we want people to stay motivated as we go in this program, and things will go up and down, and you'll have some, little things pop up, and here and there you're going to stub your toe on the marathon at some point, right? But we're not worried about that. We're trying to get back to the goal. And one of those was fatigue. So that was really important to me, and I still was feeling like I was sleepier than I should have been. And it took it took kind of a wake up call for me to understand that's what was going on. Like, I was waking up after plenty of sleep, and I was still tired. And it would take quite a while to get going during the day, and I couldn't figure it out. So I really had to go back to basics, and the basics of just thinking about the triangle of our needs, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, what am I missing here? We're gonna start over, because I know that it's going to get better, and lots of people's fatigue has improved, but when's my turn? So anyway, so it started with fire season last summer, and of course that can inflame everybody's breath. No matter who you are, it's not really healthy for you to be breathing that in constantly, and so that made it worse. What was going on with my breath at night, enough to wake me up to see that was the issue, and that was something that I need to sort of look at. So ever since then, I've been, quite busy trying to fix this in myself, and because it seems to happen during sleep. And if you're not getting proper breath during sleep, that can affect your whole day, your whole life. And I'm of the opinion that I was probably struggling with that for, you know, over a decade, if not more. And I just didn't know it. And because I was asleep. So, uh, yes. So I kind of got lost in the weeds there of the original question, but is that kind of where we're going? Is that a good intro?
Totally, totally. And by
Okay.
inflamed breath, you mean inflamed lungs?
Yeah, so my airway,
Mhm.
maybe some people experience this during the day, like it's a little bit scratchier. They get a sore throat because of fires, some kind of chemical irritant that's causing kind of swelling and maybe making their airway a little bit more narrow. Like allergies,
Mhm.
it could happen during allergies too. So that's what I mean by that. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and it was, I believe it was you that found what's her name, Rhonda, something that Garrett had interviewed on sleep and the breath and the position of the tongue and all of that. So is that related to this?
Yeah, yeah, Rhonda Hallman, I saw her, and, it was funny, I had been watching her already because my daughter had been struggling with this, that she was starting to mouth breathe, and it was taking a while to fix it, and that's how I got kind of into it for her. I never even suspected that I could also have an issue too. So I didn't see it, but yes, she is somebody that helps with that, and she has a bunch of she has a book, and she has some classes, and you can get a consult with her too. I haven't done that, but I just followed her Instagram basically. But yeah, she's into that. She's the expert.
Very good. Yeah, I'm working my way through it, but the first thing I did is become hyper aware of my tongue. I have to say it's mildly annoying,
Yeah.
but I know that's how it goes as soon as, because mostly we're not aware. And what I realized is that the tip of my tongue is always on my palate, or quite often resting on my palate, but the rest of the tongue
Mhm.
falls away. And I notice how the moment I get a little stressed or I'm exerting, say physically, the tendency is to drop the tongue. And if I'm noticing that if I don't do that, I actually have added energy and strength if I maintain.
Mhm.
It turns out you can still mouth breathe with your mouth closed.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. That's a good
Right? That
point to make,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, people are taping their mouth and stuff like well, that won't work on that if the tongue is floppy and weak, I guess, is one of the things.
Yeah, there's certainly a right way and a wrong way to kind of address these things, and or for instance, if your upper airway, if your nose is too stuffy, then you don't want a mouth tape. That's not going to help you. You're not quite ready for that. So, and then there's maybe people, on one side of this called wanting to look smacks or something like that, because this can improve people's appearance too when they start to support these tissues. It's amazing, fascinating how all it relates. And Dr. Mike Mew, and he has an app that I've been doing as well, and he warns against this too. But it is also a potential outcome, is that you're also going to look more vibrant as well as feel better.
Nice. Yeah, I experimented a little bit actually looking at myself, the difference between the floppy tongue and a nicely, lightly suctioned tongue to the palate, and I do look different.
Mhm.
Like now I'm out
Yeah.
of vanity every time I get a picture taken, I'm gonna make sure my tongue is on the roof of my mouth.
That is a good motivation too. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's awesome. Yeah, the app that the Mike Mew app even has you can take your photo and kind of watch yourself as you're doing your changes. And yeah, it's always good to have some positive positive results as you're going through this, and seeing where you've come, certainly.
Nice. Well, let's see, would you like to talk about do you wanna just go deep on the breath first and come back to the brain, or what would be a better order for you?
Sure, sure. So, so yeah, I'll just continue with my story because I'm not an airway expert, but this is what happened to me, and this is how I found out that this was an issue. And once I started getting curious about it, and then started talking to clients about it too, and I thought that maybe they have some sleep disordered breathing. We'll call it that, as a general kind of thing. And you wouldn't know it. You don't know you have it if you don't know you have it. So anyway, so the fire season kind of made me really tired. I was so tired, and I really got motivated to figure out what was going on. I got I had a watch that I previously used before when I had POTS to kind of monitor my heart rate, and I noticed they had a new version, so I bought the new version that tracks sleep, and I got that, and I started seeing what's going on with my sleep at night, and at first I didn't really know what I was looking at. I was like, okay, I don't really see anything, um, and but then I didn't know what I was looking for. Like, it can't diagnose you with anything. But I knew something was wrong here because the percentages were off as far as deep REM, that's rapid eye movement, that's dreaming, and light sleep. And it was looking really choppy because it can give you kind of like stages, and tell you just by knowing how much you're moving, and maybe your temperature and a few other things. It knows kind of what sleep stage, or it can make a pretty good estimate. And those were kind of off, and I kept getting bad sleep scores. I was like, what's going on here? Why am I getting such bad sleep scores? I'm getting the proper amount of hours. I didn't get it, and I guess they're not allowed to say too much, but they're just giving you the data there. And so finally I just thought, what, I'm just gonna put these screenshots into Chat GPT and see what's going on. So that's what I did. And Chat GPT said, "Oh, there's a big problem here." And so it said it told me that although I had an average good oxygen, during REM, my level of oxygen would absolutely plummet. So that's that dreaming kind of stage. So what happens when you get into REM, which usually happens later in the night, after a few hours or so, you start having more dreams and everything, and that's kind of that's totally normal, and your body wants to protect you from acting out those dreams, of course, because it's kind of the most metabolically active, that it's closer to waking than we think it is. But it wants to keep you from acting out those dreams, of course. So it tells your whole body it basically paralyzes your whole body, right? And when you have the type of sleep apnea that I was having, that signal is too strong, or the counter signal to keep that airway open, because that involves muscles and nerves and everything too, is too weak. Okay, so that signal to keep me safe was actually causing me to lose a lot of oxygen and to go really low. Like, I'm talking, like 75% oxygen at some point.
Interesting.
And yeah. And so it was going up and down, and I had no idea. I'm not a snorer or anything. I'm not heavy like we think of sleep apnea and obstructive sleep apnea, because that's what this is essentially. Is just a subset of that. We think of somebody who has sleep apnea as a big snorer, big guy, thick neck, older, middle-aged kind of thing. And so it was quite a shock to see that I had an issue there.
Could I jump in?
So go ahead, sure, please.
Yeah, I didn't think of myself of having any sleep apnea either, but when I fall asleep on my back, I will inevitably
Mhm.
wake myself up because I completely block my airways as soon as I guess it's I don't know what exactly happens, but I will never in a million years be able to fall asleep and stay asleep on my back. It has to be on my side. So
Mhm.
that is a form of apnea, is it not?
Positional apnea. Yeah, I think that's what that or Yeah, something like that, but positional is in it, so it's still apnea, yes. Yeah, apnea just means lack of breath, so it's a very generic term, or even hyponia. Hyponia? Yeah, it means low breath. So either one, and the if you go to get a sleep study, they'll give you an AHI, apnea hypneo index, that kind of figures out what kind of distinguishes the two, and they'll give you a score for that.
Right, right. Yeah, they have to go and spend the night in the clinic and be all monitored about
Oh,
that. I was noticing
yeah.
also like that sometimes say like the worst, I can't remember the last time this ever happened, but everybody's familiar with paralysis dreams where, you need to
Mhm.
run, but you're not running or it's so slow motion. You can't get anywhere. And so it's fascinating because you are actually paralyzed
Mhm.
at a
Yeah.
biochemical kind of level. Yeah. And what would be the biochemistry of that paralysis? What does your body do to shut things down?
Well, I didn't geek out too much on this one, right? I was more focused on the solution, and what to do about it, rather than the signaling. But essentially, it's a part of the brain that sends a signal to the entire body, of the entire muscles, and it's a very strong signal too, right? That's pretty powerful to tell your whole body to literally paralyze. And
Mhm.
this has to do with GABA and glycine and everything, and the balance of it, and acetylcholine, etc. When it comes to me, though, I think what happened is just because I had um let's see how I can explain this. Okay, so I I w- I would have said a while ago that I had hypermobile syndrome. So I bet some people listening probably know what that is. It's kind of a very vague, almost fibromyalgia kind of like um broad spectrum disorder that a lot of, and it's especially common in women too, and it's generally associated with very flexible joints, and kind of like low support for the joints, and sometimes people have stretchy skin, and sometimes it's genetic, but the vast majority of the time they the doctors are baffled. They have no idea why women get this, and it causes all sorts of comorbidities too, including like POTS, fatigue, popping joints, heart issues, and then airway issues. I didn't know that. I never looked at that. But basically, that connective tissue that's supposed to support all our organs and structures and everything, it's just a little weaker than normal, for some people. And I do think it's related to toxicity and deficiency. And I guess the stereotypical person that has hypermobile would, they could do the party tricks, so they can, bend their thumb all the way to their wrist, etc. And yeah, I could wrap my arm and touch my other ear behind my head. I could put both legs behind my head. So that's cool and everything, and that looks great. And a lot of people become like dancers or gymnasts, but it becomes a problem later when toxicity and deficiency really get to a certain level, when that starts to be a problem, and not just a fun thing anymore, and not just graceful movements and and all that. It does cause a lot of issues. So where was I going with that? All right,
If
so
I
so
could
mine
jump,
was more mechanical,
yeah, if I could
is
just
what I
quickly
was
jump in.
go ahead.
I can't resist and say that that everybody envied those people that were hyper bendy, as if this was some goal that we all needed to get to in that you know yoga craze that I was very much part of. And but it's good to hear, right, that this is actually not desirable and is connected to other problems. And so again, it's back to the vanity of, oh, I can put my head behind my leg or the other way around, and as if that's so impressive. But good for you for seeing it. And can you take one question before we get too far forward as well,
Yeah.
or even two? So Mary's asking, or Diane is asking, that would the device itself not drain your natural energy that contributes to circadian rhythm? which devices should
What
they?
device are we talking about?
Yeah, maybe you have to clarify the device. Is that like the CPAP or the testing for apnea, something like that? She also suggests that the main issue is low redox signaling. Do you want to say anything about that?
Um, I'm not sure. So redox, that's a huge topic. It's oxidation reduction. We're doing that literally every single second of every day. So I'm not sure, but in my case, and I think a lot of people's cases, when I was talking about this hypermobile spectrum, usually they can't find a genetic cause for it, and there are some genetic things. They have weak collagen, just genetically the code for their collagen synthesis is wacky in some way, but 90% of the time they can't find a cause. They'll call it idiopathic, right? They doctors are baffled. They have no idea, but I think it's toxicity. Just our toxic world. It's very, I believe it's a lot more common. And then deficiency of nutrients also, I think, causes that. And I certainly had that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So yeah, maybe at the itty bitty gritty level, but that's that's kind of the level I saw it at, as that just I had started toxic and I was still, fairly toxic, and it affected the muscles and the strength of this. So why didn't my program fix that already? That should have been something, it fixed. And it did. It fixed my hypermobile symptoms. Actually, I can't do those tests. They actually, that's one of the ways a doctor, if they know what they're looking for, will diagnose you with a hypermobile syndrome, is they will have you do all sorts of party tricks for them. And I can't do them anymore. And I stopped being able to do them. And I don't have POTS anymore. That used to be that's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Very, very difficult condition, and people who know how difficult that is. And it's not just, oh, you stand up and your heart is elevated a little bit. There's so much associated with that, and that went away with the program. However, this airway thing, that I was still having a very weak airway at night, and I didn't know it, that was still happening. That was still affecting my my quality of life and everything, and my energy, and so much more. So that was still something. And I think, it's like like Dr. Smith says, it's like, or anything in biology, use it or lose it. Like, the body's very if it's not using something, it's gonna kind of atrophy. And so that whole, I had to kind of relearn. It's like being in a car accident, and you have to learn to walk again at the same time. So that's why I would say our program fixes a lot of things, but that was something that wasn't fixed by this, because I needed to learn to walk again. I needed to learn how to support my airway at night. I needed to wake up those nerves that were or that signal that was kind of weakened in me, to know that there was a problem, and to really address this and get quality sleep at night, so that my life could be better, and et cetera, et cetera.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And so what ways would your body, now I'm not sure if there's an answer to this, but if there are ways that nutrition deficiencies and the toxicities that come from food and the air and the water and all forms coming at us all the time, including EMFs, how does that affect the breath and the biochemistry? I mean, you already talked about the smoke in the air. That those are obvious things that obviously hold people back. And so, is there like a biochemical where at the level of the diet that there's some input that people can have? I know there's a lot of, say, asthma issues in young children, especially, that have been jabbed, and so there seems to be a relationship there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if the body's trying to constantly clean up toxins, it doesn't have a lot of time for repair and and growth. And since I was hypermobile for a very long time, I was doing these party tricks we talked about, as a kid. I developed differently for that because I was toxic growing up, and my body got a little bit different, and I have very long limbs and very long fingers because of that. So that it can so these toxicities, and I think one of the main ones is probably a copper. I think copper was uh I had too much of it, and copper can really mess with collagen, and that can just affect your entire physiology, and it did for me too. Just with the general shape that I'm in, and the wingspan they call it. Like if if I stretch out my arms, yeah, it's they're rather unnaturally long. I do okay though. Some people think that's elegant, but again, it's not something that's uh, healthy to have. So these toxicities and deficiencies, my body not doing all these supportive frameworks properly, actually affected how my entire, like, my bones and my limbs, and how I looked and everything too. So yeah, it goes very deep, the entire structure of it.
Mhm. Yeah, copper is an absolute nemesis. I'm grateful to have identified it as a poison because I was
Mhm.
consuming a lot of it high speed, and I've learned to feel when I'm on copper. I almost refer to it as a drug now, and I get that jacked up, wired. There's a certain happiness into it. It's got like kind of fake energy, like caffeine does, but inevitably after a few days of the jacked up, and then I'll have some actual copper symptoms, and it's like, yep, that's what that was. So I don't know if you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about how copper, because it's very badly understood. People think it's a nutrient, people think it is a good supplement. They want to hold their water in copper vessels. We're infested with copper pipes for our water systems for the most part. So yeah, anything you want to share there, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I thought copper was great too. I had no idea, and it seems so benign. It's on pennies. They make pipes out of it. It's used in all the wiring, and it's not something that is, immediately toxic either. It's something that we've always been told needs, that we absolutely have to have it, and maybe we need a little, but yeah, it can be absolutely devastating, and I resisted knowing that that was a toxin for a while because of one particular guy, medical medium, and he says a lot of very kind of wacky things. So yeah, and when he said like copper is a toxin, I'm just like, "Psh," that's just another one of his goofy theories. And because if for those of you who don't know who that is, he like talks to I think a being called spirit that helps him do his healing work and everything like that too. And he's particularly, I think, kind of famous for insisting on celery juice for cleansing. So that's why I resisted it at first. It's just
Mhm.
by who was saying it. But eventually when I started to look into Dr. Smith's work and him talking about copper, and I realized that that was a big problem for me because I was even making jewelry with copper. I was making some organite. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's like it's metal shavings and metal pipes, kind of encased in resin. It helps harmonize like energies, and some people believe in even like helps with the sea trails up in the sky. And I do believe that it is beneficial. But I was touching bare copper all the time, and I thought, oh, it was no big deal. It's not a problem. And I had taken copper supplements too. I probably had I think I did have a copper cup. I'm not sure if I use it regularly, but yeah. So, long story short, I had a huge copper problem. When I finally got my test with Dr. Smith, it was still pretty significant. I do believe that the niacin took out quite a bit of it, and we can talk about that maybe later. But it was still significantly high. So yeah, long story short, copper is no good. It's overall it's stimulating. It's definitely but over time it's so stimulating that you actually never get fully rested. So you can become very tired and very fatigued over a while. It definitely is a firecracker, is a kind of a burnout thing. So yeah, that's why it can make people feel good as first, and that's what's kind of deceptive about it.
Yeah, which is often the case with nearly every poison is often a stimulant. And I was an insomniac for many, many years. I struggled like anything with sleep. And now, after I've been bragging, which I don't like to do because just in case that boomerangs on me or anything like that. But 9 times out of 10, I get such a good sleep. I don't even wake up for the bathroom anymore. Like, it's amazing. I can go 8 straight hours, and that was unheard of most of my life. So definitely
That's
making
wonderful,
progress.
and that's so protective. I mean, we all know that sleep's important for you, and then that's a third of your life too. So, I'm so happy for you that it's so improved now, and I think waking up to go to the bathroom. That's for people that are having disordered sleeping or toxic bile, which leaks at night, where the bile's dumping, some of it's getting into the blood and kind of waking you up, because also bile can be very stimulating too. um
Mhm.
and that kind of wakes them up. And but some people, if you're having a low breathing at night, as a very, very last resort, your body is like, okay, we got to give her the signal, she has to go to the bathroom, like, wake her up, we got to get some air over here. So people, sometimes it can get so bad for some people, they're waking up at night to go pee, and they have no idea that it's actually more related to their breath.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, how it's all related. And yeah,
Mhm.
the toxicity can be so strong. So now we don't need to go super deep into this right now because I know we'll get way off track. But the path being, the liver wants to handle the poison first, and you can correct me. And if the liver doesn't handle it, it goes to the kidneys, and if the kidneys can't handle it, it goes to the skin. But that can mean that the bladder ends up full of, like, my dad had a bladder cancer, for example, and it ends up so full of poison that it becomes an urgency. That it's like, get this out because it's hurting.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too. Yeah, that's also something that's causing that. And some people suffer from chronic cystitis, and it's just noted in the literature. Cystitis means just inflammation. Like, it's not infection, it's just kind of inflammation. We don't know why you're peeing so often and it doesn't feel good. Well, yeah, that's a signal. There's the just like you maybe eat something that didn't agree with you, and your guts kind of sense that and kind of presses the button to flush everything. I think the kidneys can have that too, and the bladder can sense, this is not good. We don't want to keep holding on to this for any longer. Otherwise, it's going to damage this bladder tissue that we have. So it'll send out the signal to make you go to the bathroom. Absolutely, yeah. That's another component. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no worries. So do you want to talk about the brain and neurotransmitters? And Kelsey, I believe we credit you for an absolutely breakthrough discovery about something that's been very demonized in the natural health world and the conventional world. So they managed to get it on both sides. Turns out it is
Mhm.
the most abundant neurotransmitter in your body, and that most people are probably literally starving for it. So where do you want to get
Mhm.
started with that?
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, yeah, I remember being when I first started talking about this, and I just feeling so hesitant to even say it. It just almost felt like a cuss word at first. But I couldn't deny that this was something that wasn't actually toxic. It's and not just the most abundant neurotransmitter, it's the most abundant amino acid in your body. Sorry, second most abundant amino acid in your body. All right. And imagine something like that. That's the second most amino acid is the components of proteins, and we're all made out of protein and water, etc. But proteins are our structure basically, and amino acids are the little substructures of that. But the most abundant thing being labeled as not just a neurotransmitter, but a toxin, and not just a toxin, but a neurotoxin. So they're telling us that we have neurotoxin constantly in our body, and you should avoid it in your diet too, as well, which just makes no sense. So with that, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just say the dirty word MSG, monosodium glutamate. So if you haven't seen my episode on that, where I give the full explanation of that, and kind of try to counteract myth bust and everything, that's on the Love Your Liver live stream from Nutrition Detective. You want to catch the whole story. But yeah, so going back to my copper toxicity, right? And Dr. Smith, or early on, I learned from Dr. Smith that it takes a while to get rid of copper. It's some sticky stuff, so to speak. Even more so than vitamin A, which is one of the main things that we work on. And it can take years to get copper out and to get zinc up. It can be very tough to fix that balance. And when I first heard him say it, I was like, oh boy, I got my work cut out for me, because I knew how much copper I had touched and eaten, and and once I got my blood test, I really knew what was going on. So I was looking for something that could fix that, to make this easier. When I heard him say that, oh, everybody wants to come with me with something that's going to fix them, and usually it doesn't work out for them. And sometimes I when I heard him say that, I'd be like, oh yeah, we'll see about that. So, and I'm so glad I did too, because I helped him, get into niacin, and then I had to bring this to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell him about MSG. It's because it's undeniable at this point. But those are two things that can really make copper a lot less difficult to deal with. And some people, of course, it's a tool in our toolbox. I'm not saying everybody needs to do this or will tolerate it, but for me and a lot of our initial guinea people, as I like to call them, our guinea people that we kind of whispered about, hey, we've got something, you want to try it.
Yes,
It's
that was
been the
me.
case. It's really helped. Yeah, it's really helped with and it's showing on their labs and their hair tests. It's showing in improvements in their symptoms. It's improving their tolerance to other supplements. It is brain food. It's brain food. It's not neurotoxic. It's just basically it can be used as energy. As well, and not just sugar. Getting people, yeah. It's so versatile, and that's why it's second most abundant, right? Because it's so versatile. It can do so many things. And I believe that us in the program, we're called Love Your Liver. Anybody who's on the spectrum of some kind of liver dysfunction has some glutamate deficiency. They need some glutamate, and you never know it to hear conventional medicine or even alternative medicine talk about it, that could ever actually be a problem. But it certainly seems to be, and it was. Supplying it, it improved a lot of things for me. It didn't fix the sleep disordered breathing that I had, but that was more structural, and I had to learn to walk again, so to speak. I had to learn to breathe again properly. But it helped a lot of things, and really helped me finally break out of that significant copper toxicity and other heavy metals too, apparently. So yes, so and we could talk about that too if you wanted to hear more about maybe how glutamate might work in the body to help with the mineral balance.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. Let's see. Was I just going to share something with you around? I can hold it. So yeah, go ahead on the heavy metals and the minerals.
Okay. All right. So looking at this copper toxicity further, I was getting weird, and I looked into some of my favorite sources of research. Old Soviet research seems to be pretty good. I love looking at the stuff. It's just like they didn't have a profit incentive, right? And their government just says, here, do this, make this happen. And they have to be really resourceful and really simple about what works and what doesn't, and not get very strange with big complex chemicals and everything like that. So anyways, so I looked into my the Soviet research, and sure enough, there was there was some stuff about glutamate and it helping with nanoparticles and copper nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles, aluminum nanoparticles, et cetera, nickel. And they were using it to detox. For them, it was the intention of helping welders, like people who had been exposed to these nanoparticles just in the process of welding and in industrial stuff. So they probably thought it was no big deal. They probably thought, oh, we're just helping this subset of our people, the Russian people or something, I looked, so that's where I began with that. And so to get to fast forward, how it works is it very strongly, it strongly binds to heavy metals. Okay, kind of like charcoal or zeolite, if you've heard Dr. Smith talk about that. And it binds very weakly to beneficial minerals. Okay, and it's not like it has a brain or it knows the difference. It has to do with like the basically the attraction, the push pull of positive and negative, and the structures it can make, whether they're stable or not. And so what it does is it okay, so let's say you have some copper and zinc in your meal, and you also have some glutamate. Okay, so and there's lots of other stuff in there all mixed up in your tummy, but basically to help you keep your balanced, where the ideal thing to have is your zinc literally higher than your copper. It has to outnumber it. Basically, it's not a yin yang thing. It's like, no, the zinc has to be dominant over the copper. Literally, it's not a male female kind of thing. And so it helps kind of keep that balance. And I think that's why we literally have a taste receptor for it. It's because it's supposed to do that for us. We're seeking it out to help with our mineral balance. So it binds very strongly to heavies and not so to beneficial minerals, or less so, at least enough to kind of improve that balance and to help it over time. And to just to little by little kind of change the situation there. So it has to be okay. So let me think how I explain this. Okay, so for a metal to be absorbed, it has to be usually in ionic form. So that means it's charged, right? It goes into the water of your stomach, the liquid, and dissociates from whatever it's attached to, and it's got a little +2 or +3. It's got a little charge on it. Okay, and then you have these little nets. We can think of them in your along your gut lining, looking for those, and they don't pull in ions that are bound to something. Okay, so if they're bound to something, then they're gonna pass right through. The little nets are looking for those plus charges. They're looking for the positive ones. So okay, so how does that relate? So when the glutamate is sticking to the copper, it sticks very strongly to copper, and there's going to be more copper glutamate than there's going to be free copper little ions that could potentially get filled up by zinc. Like it subs for zinc a lot of times too. That's a big part of the problem. But because this glutamate will bind the copper more strongly than it will zinc, it's very low binding to zinc. It'll allow the zinc to get into the zinc receptor a lot more favorably. So for instance, like if I had a solution full of this stuff, like 97% of it would be just floating around as copper glutamate, and only maybe 3% would be copper ions. And then it would probably be the opposite when it comes to zinc. So when it comes to zinc, if you had a zinc glutamate, then like only 3% of it would be zinc glutamate, and the rest would be zinc ions. If that helps make sense. But we need it. we need to change that balance essentially, and I think that's why we have a taste for it. That's why all plants they make glutamate when they're faced with heavy metal stress. Even bacteria will do this. Any kind of metal stress, they'll increase the amount of glutamate that they have to basically do this on on a full body scale or a full cellular scale, to help to kind of keep this balance going. uh that's kind of where we're going with that. So we'll just pause here and see, is everybody with me on this one?
I'm with you. And
Okay.
so, what would be the body's, first of all, the location and the process of making glutamate where the diet might be starved, like void of it because we've been taught to avoid them?
Good question, right? So that's a little bit that could be misleading when somebody tells you that it's the second most abundant amino acid in your body, and it's not even considered an essential amino acid, right? Like you can make glutamate from a lot of the other ones too. Um um so I think, yeah. So why do we have a possible deficiency, even though there's I saw one thing that said you have 4 pounds of glutamate in you right now, right? It's How can that be a neurotoxin when you've got 4 pounds of it in you, on average? And why would we have a deficiency? It, so any kind of liver dysfunction, the liver loves glutamate. It loves to use it as an energy source, and if there's liver dysfunction, it'll start to prefer it over sugar. I guess you could say it's a little bit cleaner burning than sugar is, or cleaner burning than fat is, or something. So it's an alternative energy source that can be safer to burn, and every time you burn something for energy, you create a little bit of you create a little, like a free radical, right? Yeah. And your body's meant to do that. That's how it happens, but you have to handle that safely. But it's just a little bit safer with that. So it's an energy substrate. They call it, the fancy word for those of you who want to hear me geek out, is let me think if I'm saying this right, anaplerotic. So that's kind of the alternative fuel source, if you could think of it that way, of the body is glutamate, and burning glutamate, and in the brain too. It's also an important fuel source. And also there's everybody's heard of glyphosate, right? So
Mhm.
that's an analog for glycine, which is another amino acid, and that can cause a lot of problems right there. Um, but there's also, I didn't know this before, looking into all this, is there's one called glufosinate. So there's an analog for glutamate that they're spraying now too. And they've got, glyphosate resistant crops. And that's starting to get more popular as, people are trying to avoid glyphosate, or there's resistance building and everything too. So that could be potentially interfering with that and subbing for glutamate, and causing dysfunction there. And that's another potential reason. But essentially, to detox, you need a lot of glutamate, and to not just deal with what your everyday normal amount of just living on earth and breathing and metabolizing, to go back to fix the stuck stuff, the accumulated things. You need a lot of glutamate to do that. So that's why we have a deficiency, is because most of us here aren't just dealing with the everyday chemicals that we can't control. We're dealing with a backlog that we've got, and that's going to take a lot of glutamate to work on. And some people would say, "Oh, well, you can just take glutamate," and lots of people have asked me that. And there's an issue that with that too, to take glutamine to get more glutamate. And yeah, we can talk about that too, unless if you want to do a quick sanity check roll, and what is yeah, just check your understanding kind of pop quiz. Is that all rocking with everybody?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Make a note of where you were going to head there. And I was just curious that one of the things I've enjoyed immensely is I really don't crave sugar. I forget to crave sugar. And is that in part due to getting enough glutamates that my body would be using that different source
Yeah,
for
yeah,
energy?
it could
Mhm.
very well be. I think it does have, definitely there's a craving going on for glutamine, and I think that the food industry has exploited that. And I talk about more of this on the live stream, but you can also have, like, you can also be craving the glutamate, but also getting something else, getting something toxic with it too. And it'll create like this kind of brain association with that. It's like, oh, the glutamate in that McDonald's food makes me feel really good. Like, but there's so many other toxic things too. So you may end up getting addicted to something that's not good for you, even though there's glutamate in there. But it's just creating this positive reinforcement because it tastes good, and your body thinks that there's something healthy in there, and it's looking for that basically to restore you and make you feel better. I was just thinking about this the other day because I got a little bit of the sniffles. I still get sick once in a while too, and I tell everybody it's okay. No, it's a detox. It's normal. It's natural. But I was just thinking this the other day about chicken soup. Okay, so chicken soup. You're supposed to have it with a cold, right? And there's actually studies on there that say it helps with cold symptoms too. And of course, old wives' tales and it's traditional medicine, or like you eat a bowl of chicken soup when you feel bad, and it's not just the warmth of it and the hydration of it. There's also something in there that I believe is helping with symptoms and helping somebody accelerate their detox cold cycle, because we think a cold is like a detox cycle, a cold or flu. It's like a more of a acute kind of thing where you're just kind of pushing a lot of stuff out at once. And I think there's a reason that chicken soup helps with that. And it's those other things too, but it's also the glutamate kind of powering detox too a little bit and providing energy in addition as well to kind of heal, ease the symptoms and the severity. And chicken soup has a lot of glutamate, so that's long story short, or umami as the Japanese might call it, that rich savory taste that glutamate brings to the tongue.
Yeah, I was so excited that tamari was still Love Your Liver friendly because that's my all-time favorite condiment, and it turns out it's totally umami, right? And there was one time because I was in the early experiment, you guys tipped me off because I'm so poisoned with the copper. And there was
Yeah.
one night I went to sprinkle it on my food and I started to cry. And I realized, like, oh my goodness, my body has been so starving for this. There was this like emotional like whimper around
Mhm.
receiving it. So that was super cool. Let's see. I wanted to just look at and the chicken thing. I can't help myself from saying that like chicken broth became problematic because it's also high in copper. So I just wanted to say that for anybody that's trying to avoid copper. I don't know. Like I'll make more of a meat stock than a broth or bone broth or all the collagen I used to think was so great, but just a little commercial for less copper there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not endorsing like the chicken soup and the bone broth and everything like that too. But what one of the things that does is it breaks down the proteins in the bones and the connective tissue there, the gelatin, and one of those is glutamate too. So it becomes very savory as it cooks, right? Or when you
Yeah.
sear a steak, that outside breaks down and it tastes really good. And there's there's a thing that some women know about it, to eat a steak before you get your period, and it's not just your iron, it's also the glutamate. I think can really ease those symptoms too, and can make periods a lot more comfortable. But yes, yeah, we get glutamate when we eat something, and we don't want to do a bone broth because that can accumulate metals and whatnot, but the glutamate can help, and we can season our low toxin diet and make our rather plain diet a lot more interesting, and also help it work for us too. Who to think that something that tastes so good and that we crave could also be good for us, because we at first we tend to crave things that are toxic for us when we're toxic, but this can overall improve cravings. I think I've heard that a lot, and improve satisfaction, and people are their muscle, their overall body composition is changing to favor more muscle over fat. So there's really something to this. There's our bodies aren't dumb. There's a reason why we have specific receptors for glutamate, and not only that, do we have receptors to look for it, to find pleasure in it, and you found pleasure too, that goes kind of awakened in you. But not only that, is that it is literally a signal in the stomach. So when the tongue and the stomach kind of work together to sense that there's glutamate in your meal, it triggers the vagus nerve. So I think most people know what that is. That's kind of the rest and digest nervous system kind of side of it, and as opposed to the fight or fear, flight, or fawn. It triggers the vagus nerve to cause the body to relax, and that makes sense too if you think about something that's good for us. If we have protein in a meal, we want to take our time. We need the acid to digest that and take all those beads on a string that are the amino acids all lined up that make up proteins. It takes time to chop those into each little individual beads. It takes acid, it takes stomach acid, it takes churning and everything too. So this glutamate is a signal for your to hold it in longer, to increase acid. And then it also, it causes a nice feeling. It literally, like, that glutamate goes up to the brain. Well, not literally, but it sends a signal from the stomach. It doesn't like travel on a channel, but it sends a signal from your stomach to your brain to rest and digest this food, because you've got protein. So you got to rest, and you got to hang out by the fire, and you got you got your protein for the day. You can relax, right? Like if you didn't get enough protein, you might not feel that, and you might not feel satisfied. You have to go out on the hunt again. Let's say you're a caveman or something. I don't really believe in evolutionary biology, so I don't want to stress this too much. But if we're thinking that the body is smart and is helping us survive, then that's a signal it would want to give. Like, okay, you can rest now. You got your protein. You made your protein window for the day. You don't have to go out and get another boar. So I hope that makes sense. So this is all very natural, and that's why we seek it out. And it's a very ancient and old conserved seek out of this substance, is to indicate that we have protein. We can build our building blocks for the day. We have that very important macro, and glutamate is how we know, and it's the only way we know, interestingly enough, that there's protein in our stomach.
Amazing. So good. Yeah. There is a happiness in it, in that, and just in that flavor. Now that makes perfect sense why. So I'm going to go back in the chat. There's a few things. One is off topic, but I feel to address it anyway. There was a comment earlier. I believe, is it the same person? He maybe used to be Achille, or is Achille on a different platform, saying Garrett blocked her. I believe it's a her or him. I don't know, for his supplement pushing that he sells zeolite. Now, I know you were involved in the research around zeolite. You have the most amazing zeolite charcoal soap, by the way, Kelsey. I keep meaning to ask you if you got any more. That I would love some. Put some aside for me, or
Yeah, we
send.
can talk about that. Yeah, I do have a lot of soap that
Oh,
I
good.
could never use in a lifetime.
Oh,
So
excellent. Yeah,
we
yeah.
can
No, it's so good.
figure
It's,
something out. Yeah.
yeah, nearly an emergency. I might drive to the US for it, literally. I got so
Okay,
picky
so
about body
do we
products.
want to do a little apologistics for zeolite here? So we're
Yeah, like not so much apologize, but there is crappy zeolite out there, so they're not
yeah,
totally misled, and that's that, the
exactly. Yeah.
aluminum, and then, so yeah, if you want to talk about how what you guys are doing with zeolite might be different. I know it ends up sounding like a commercial, and I'm not, this is not a cult or anything like that, but there is a difference. And I think the
Yeah.
main thing to point out is that it's not being pushed. You guys aren't sitting there banging the zeolite drum. It's like, this is in a toolbox. If you want to include it or try it or not, right? Nobody chased
Yeah.
after me to get zeolite.
Yeah, exactly. And as Dr. Smith would say, is that nobody has a zeolite deficiency, or nobody has a charcoal deficiency, or uh,
Right.
that kind of thing. Like, these are just tools in our toolbox that can help us. And some people who use niacin, we don't have literal pellagra where we're just like kind of almost got leprosy or something from such severe vitamin B deficiency. So it's just a tool in our toolbox to help make this more comfortable, and to speed along and to make it healthier, so we're not pushing things too hard. It nobody has to do it. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. We're not gonna make you. We're not gonna kick you out of the program. I think that the most important thing, and I try to stress this, even though we sell supplements, your most important tool in your healing is your low toxin diet. You do not have to. Your body is a natural healer. It'll clean itself up once you remove the toxins. And even more so than supplementing, but it can work with what you've got. And if it doesn't have to deal with a bunch of toxins a day, it's amazing what the body can do. But anyways, yes, there is problems with zeolite, with a lot of zeolites out there. And I discovered this, before I talked with Dr. Smith. I was working for a media company that wanted to do their own brand of zeolite, because it was getting a little popular. No, it was huge, but there's drops out there, and there were some MLMs, multi-level marketing that had some drops, and word of mouth claiming it helped their son's spectrums disorders and everything, and detox, and it can do parasites and things like that. So I was working for them, and I had the same concerns about zeolite that probably this person has. Okay, so I had the same concerns, and they wanted me to do the product, and I'm like, hey, look, I'll do my best, okay, but this stuff is uh like it's very problematic. So I totally understand where they're coming from. So anyways, long story short, I've been working with zeolite for like 3 to 4 years. I have the same concerns that people bring up all the time, and I address them and go through them, why ours is different. But yeah, so you're right, and then you're also wrong. Is what I was saying when it comes to zeolite.
Right. And so, just a word also, if you want to have a relationship with Garrett, it's better not to call him out, because he's an
Yeah.
educator, and that's mostly what he's involved in with people in a very big way. He has a big ship. So if you come at him with an attack, then you're much less likely to end up in a dialogue where more knowledge could be learned. And so, yeah, he's a little trigger happy with
Just
that.
get curious. Get curious. Don't get angry.
Yeah,
Just get curious. It's like,
right on.
why do you say that, doctor? And he's not going to block you for that. Yeah,
No,
yeah. But
no,
if you're insulting, or you just tell him you're wrong, and yeah, that's not going to work out for you. He doesn't have time for that.
exactly. So the next question
Yeah.
from Mary or Diane, you have to tell me what you prefer to be called. Which she says, when MSG is under a microscope, it doesn't look like crystals, just like oxalates for salt. Could it accumulate in joints like oxalates? I'm guessing no.
No, no, no.
Okay, good to know.
It's very
And
water soluble, and you're mostly water, so no way. Yeah.
okay, very good. Yeah, so is it, like something like calcium, is it also water soluble, but it does accumulate in joints, or is that totally different?
Yeah, calcium has a lot of very insoluble salts, as we call it. So it's just the calcium, and then whatever it's bound to. Most of them do not dissolve in water.
Ah, right, like calcium carbonate, for example, the Tums
Yep.
and
Uh-huh.
what they spray the skies with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Chrissy's asking, why would I gain weight on MSG? I guess that would be totally relative to the individual, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be relative to the individual. But if you need to gain weight, like if you need, like, you're an undertype, as Dr. Smith calls it, you have difficulty putting on weight, it can help with that. All right. And niacin can too as well. If you need to gain weight, it'll help you gain it. If you need to lose weight, it can help you lose it too. It's one of those balancers in a lot of ways. And we've had, I think several undertypes, like people really having difficulty, like having to consume a lot of calories just to stay the same weight, real skinny, like I'm talking about like a male who's 130, 140, smallish. They're really having trouble, and they're finally, with the glutamate, they found something where they don't need to consume such massive quantities of food to maintain their weight, and they're even starting to get a little bit of lean. They're getting and keeping their lean muscle mass with MSG. But yeah, that's a big question. There's there's a lot involved, but I'm giving you some examples of how it can restore the balance.
Yeah, and just to give testament to that, because I became an under, I wasn't always by any means. And I noticed that every single time I would get sick, I was losing weight. And it's like, what the heck? In a disappearing act around here. And I was eating 3 and 4 meals a day to get enough calories, just not to be hungry. But then with the MSG, now I'm down to 2 meals and a snack, and I'm completely satisfied. And my body is stable. I'm not losing, I'm not gaining. I feel more solid than I've ever felt as well, partly due to a little bit more strong working out. But I think that's related, like muscle building. Obviously, an amino acid, like you said, they're builders, right? It's literally building your body.
Yeah, it's one of the smallest, and so it's like I said earlier, it's one of the most versatile. So bodybuilders would talk about something called branched chain amino acids, and you got to get your BCAAs, man, and they have the whole dude section at the health food store of these like awful powders, but they're looking for that. But basically, if they just took some MSG, that's glutamate, they can turn into all of them. So then you're giving their body the raw material for those, and for those muscle building proteins, and letting it decide how much of each one to make, right? So there's not like too much of this one or not enough of that one. You give them the raw material, and your body can decide how to do that. And I had that experience too, is that I was still dealing with this airway issue at the time, but I was starting to walk. I was trying to walk every day at least, and it was helping me lower the fat and gain muscle just from that. That was improving my body composition, by some percentage points too, just by adding glutamate to my diet.
Amazing. Really good. Hello,
Yeah.
Paul. Glad you could make it if you're still around. And this is interesting. AG is asking, or just saying, that it tastes better than NaCl. For those who don't know, that's just regular salt. And I'm imagining, and maybe you can confirm this, that your taste really does tell quite a bit. I was hearing this on office hours again today, that, because right now I consume a great deal of potassium chloride because of the high copper levels. And it tastes so good to me. Like I don't even need it with salt. I can put it in food and gob it on, and my body just goes yum, yum, yum. Same with the MSG. And so
Yeah.
can you trust your taste buds that way to teach you?
Yes, but be like a child is one of the things that Jesus said. But yes,
Mm.
but you have to think more like a kid, right? Like they knew that like broccoli wasn't good for us. We knew, but we got kind of trained out of that. We got kind of trained to crave some poisons like chocolate and things like that too, if given with a spoonful of sugar. But in this case, yes, we can trust our taste buds, as long as we know that we're not consuming a bunch of toxins with the glutamate too, and creating a kind of a brain association with that to crave something like that.
Yeah,
But and
quickly. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just
Oh
I
yes.
go ahead.
Sorry. No. I'm just basically supporting what you're saying. Is that that's what we're looking for. And if you need, potassium, it tastes good to you, like the 50/50 salt. Some people claimed it tastes metallic. I thought it tasted fine. And I got my children all used to it too. They never complained or thought my salt was weird in any way. But yeah, in this case, yes. So if it's good for you, it tends to taste a little bit better.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it takes some time to sort out the difference between what I'll call like real life force energy, where you feel alive, compared to being
Mhm.
jacked up. Right, which is what you get high on with the caffeine or the chocolate or the copper
Yeah.
foods. They are very different. I used to down these massive, liter or 2 of green juice at a time, and then I would get high because I'd been poisoned. I would have this altered
Yeah.
state from it, and I think, "Oh, I'm getting really healthy now," like this, and it's taken me a lot of years. I also teach people the difference between this because the highs of life are not what we're looking for. They more often than not, those highs end up a net, not a net zero, but like a net negative to the body. And so if you can learn the difference between real life energy and fake energy, then boy, you've come a long way. So this to me applies across the board,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
but not easy to do because it's very deceiving, so to
Yes,
speak.
and sometimes we don't even know the difference, or we're only able to, because of the states of our that we put ourselves in, or we put ourselves in kind of a burnout situation where we never got that full rest. I think one of the best examples I've heard about our nervous system and our parasympathetic and sympathetic. I think most people have heard of those. There's two sides: rest and digest, and fight, flight, or fawn. Um, is that it's kind of like a ladder, okay? So think of like super high energy as like the top rung of the ladder, and super relaxed, super chill. You're with all your buddies, everything is fine, times are good. That's like the low rung, okay? It's not like that's a bad thing. But um but what if you're always on that top rung of the ladder, eventually you're going to start to get unstable there. And if you can never really fully get to the bottom, the most rested, deeply satisfied, like it's going to be very hard to ever to truly rise again. You have to like go all the way down if you're, going to get back up, or you're going to get to a comfortable spot on the ladder too. And I think that's part of what copper does, or these other stimulants too, is they never let your body fully get to true rest. And that's where repair comes. Sometimes it's called rest and repair, the parasympathetic system. That's where repair happens too. And like I said earlier, anybody with some toxicity, which is just, standard issue here on Earth, needs to go into repair mode and not just everyday maintenance.
Exactly. That's what I notice now is that when I sleep, I heal. It used to be the other way around. Like I could not rely on sleep to heal. I had to do that in my waking
Yeah.
hours, which is, you're busy with a lot of stuff in waking hours. So yeah, that's really good. And then yeah, what goes up if you're addicted to high energy and getting high, then it has to come down. This is like a law of something. I'm sure people are going to argue with me about it being a law, but this was interesting. Lipton chicken noodle soup has MSG. I was totally addicted to that as a child. I bet it's because of the glutamates. And
Oh, I remember that stuff. My mom had it. Yeah, it was pretty good stuff. Yeah.
and then she was also saying that if it doesn't taste good, meaning MSG in particular, does that mean that they're not deficient?
Well, I'm not sure how you're using it. Like you could be using it like too much doesn't taste good. It's a little cloying if you have too much. So it's hard to say. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what you've been doing with it? Maybe I can help.
And then AG said that his oldest said it's a great taste, and the
Yeah, it
youngest
doesn't taste good on
and
fruit. Like you don't want to put it on sweet things. That
no,
for
it doesn't
example.
go exactly. It's
Yeah.
savory, and it's best with meat.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
also
yeah, and you can eat it with protein too, and that can include plant proteins like rice and beans. Yeah.
okay, okay, got it. And it's a protein extender, correct? That it helps your body make more use of the protein you do get.
Yes, yes, it helps increase all of the proteins, bioavailability, absolutely, and then it's so versatile itself, so it can really, help with the very structures, big and small, of our body.
Right, right, very good. And that's so. Let's see, where was I going to go? I want to go back to intelligence, how we started our conversation today. And this was one of the massive shifts that I noticed. It was probably on the MSG for maybe 4 or 6 weeks before you guys rolled it out more publicly. And one of the
Mhm.
biggest benefits that I noticed was greater mental acuity, my ability to hold information in mind. And I am a royal multitasker. You don't want to look at my tabs, it's very out of control. And I was noticing much greater ease at navigating between multiple platforms and elements and conversations and details. Like my projects end up using so many different apps and a variety of things like that, and it became much easier. Can you explain why that would be?
Well, you're basically giving it, an alternative fuel and a little bit more of a fuel, and you're increasing your, the liver loves it, it's gonna go to your liver first as the first pass. It's not really getting into your bloodstream. That's part of why how they kinda scare people is it goes straight in the bloodstream. No, your liver gobbles the stuff up, and your liver has to do with making energy for you. And, basically to have a lot of tabs open, essentially, like, rather on your computer or in your mind, that takes a lot of energy. That takes a lot of processing speed and power to do that. So that absolutely makes sense with what you've experienced. And I have. I'll admit I have ADHD, and I probably have since I was a child. So it helped with some of the symptoms of my ADHD, and I think ADHD is almost a little bit of a lack of uh, good distribution of energy in the brain. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I think it's so much has to do with like energy in the brain, and depression is like low energy than the brain, and even seizures disorder that could be like low energy. People think like you're getting zapped, like you have way too much. No, it's actually the opposite. Oh yeah, and I found a study that's saying like glutamate helped with seizure disorders in 2 weeks. Is cut seizures in half for people who had drug resistant seizures. So,
No kidding.
take that neurotoxin crowd.
That's amazing. I know somebody who suffers
Yeah.
regular grand mal seizures if they don't use cannabis every single day. And we know that
Oh
it's
my
a
gosh.
band-aid that some people, you can't fault them, but if they understood the relationship between the glutamates and seizures, that could be a game changer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Remind me. I'll send you this today so you can pass that along. But it's fascinating. Like if you have that, and the body has to adapt very quickly. Yeah, it can burn fats, ketones, sugar, glucose is what's all over the body. Um, but yeah, and glutamate's one of them, and it's an alternative fuel, and it's quicker burning. And people that are getting on the toxic side, their brain starts to prefer glutamate over sugar sometimes, too, just because that more cleaner burning, it doesn't want to add to the brain's a burden, essentially. So it can even become the preferred food sometimes.
And why is sugar not a clean burn? What's happening there?
There's a lot of steps, and anytime you're doing this, like a step in the cycle, there's things that can go wrong, of course, and it takes more oxygen to burn it fully. Like there's that initial what's called glycolysis, which gives us a small amount of ATP, and then it has to go through a lot more steps to get all the way through. And there's something called the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle, that glutamate can feed into, and it's just an alternative. It's a little simpler, and it's a little there's less potential byproducts or things that can go wrong with that one, to put it more simply. And then
Okay.
also, glutamate being versatile too is that it can also kind of, if there's copper or something, it can weakly chelate it. Like it in the brain, if we're just talking about the brain or something, if something goes wrong with creating energy with this, redox, as the person was saying, that's what basically this is. It's a bunch of different chains of that. But if something goes wrong, the glutamate can not only act as a fuel source, it can act as like a protector, especially if there's like a copper or a heavy metal or something like that. It can kind of create a shell around it. And I think that's one of the reasons why glutamate uh, got maligned, or people like thought it might be. I equate it to like there's a fire and the firemen show up, and then the policemen see the firemen and arrest the firefighters for starting the fire, but it wasn't them, right? So they're just there. It's your body trying to protect you when it puts more glutamate in the system. It's either trying to give you an alternative fuel because you need a different fuel, or it's trying to kind of protect against toxicities and almost literally like encase heavy metals, for example, in kind of a shell, so that they can get moving again.
Very nice. And, yeah,
Yeah.
in addition to the mental acuity, I had a much better memory. Like, I'm not good at Trivial Pursuit, and you don't ask me to do a crossword. I'm gonna fail miserably. But for some reason, I was able to pull out stuff that honestly I wouldn't have heard for since I was 12 or something. I was just these little details I was able to pull out in the middle of conversations that I'm going like, "Wow, where did that stuff come from?" Not that it's so important to remember the trivia, just that my brain accesses information better, from what I'm hearing because it's got a better energy source.
It makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so people's, like, fatigue and their brain fog and, never mind the range you mentioned depression, the range of mental disorders that we go through that, that's very, very prevalent. I think it's so, so common that people are like, "Oh, I'm tired and my brain hurts," and all that kind of thing. So I just feel like there's so much hope in this arena.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much hope, and your body wants to heal, and it's very smart and adaptable, and it knows what it's doing, and that can be used by scientists or the people directing the scientists. Maybe the scientists don't know, but that could be used to kind of uh to kind of trick you into thinking that maybe glutamate is bad. And it's very interesting that here in the States and probably Canada too, is that it's got a real bad reputation, but over in Asian countries they use it all the time. They have salt shakers literally right there on the table, and they didn't get the same kind of I guess, what do you call it? Propaganda that they got
That's it.
against MSG. Yeah, and most people have only ever seen it as accent in the grocery store, and there's like, "What's that? Accent?" And for years, that was the only MSG company in the United States versus like Asian countries where it's like they love it. They use it all the time, and yeah. So it's very interesting the kind of to hear the origin of how that got implicated as the culprit. And again, I talk about it more in the live stream. But anyways, where was I going with that? I kind
No,
of
that's okay.
lost myself.
Yeah, no, it's all good that, I'm curious if you think that, like, has there been a trend, or are you literally the trend creator, knowing that the East, they still have it on the table, but here it's become it doesn't matter who you talk to, they know for a fact MSG is bad and wrong. And are there any other
Yeah.
pockets of people that are waking up to it?
Um, let's see. Not that I can think of offhand, but it used to be like this. In older European cultures, like we used to glutamate, and it was I found somebody sent me a video one time of they used to create this like stock basically, and it was this hard brown, full of glutamate, kind of really condensed meat stock, not just powder, but and travelers and merchants and everything, they would take this stuff and it would help keep them satisfied on the road, and they just add a little bit of water or sailors or something like that, and this kept people alive. So this was a very valuable kind of food, a very a very shelf stable food, and and then going on to other across the globe too. I'm sorry, going back to the Asian countries, is like they helped prevent famine with MSG. So when when there's a takeover of a regime or something, like food supply can struggle. But like for example, China was able to keep people alive by supplying them glutamate because it's shelf stable and it can provide them with all these amino acids basically, and that when they can't get fresh food or something like that, it can be a source of additional protein for them.
Wow, that's amazing. And let's see, before we move on, Chrissy was saying that MSG is made mostly from corn. What do you know about the different
Yeah.
sources of MSG? Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
She's right. Yep.
yeah, and is that a problem with all the GMO'd corn out there, the non-organic corn?
I don't think so. I don't think in this case, like, we're not eating, a pound of corn to get it. So we're just having
Mhm.
like a little bit of sprinkle as a portion of salt, like little bits. So and it's very processed. And Ajinomoto is the original company over 100 years old that has been doing this for a very long time. And I don't know what kind of corn they're made out of, but if it is, I'm not too worried about it. So they'll ferment it with the bacteria, and this will make a Corynebacterium glutenicum. And that corn can't be that poison, or that bacteria wouldn't survive, right? And would make a lot of glutamate. So that is one consideration. But then they ultra purify it after that. So I think it's pretty negligible. There are some that are brands available of sorry. So they make Ajinomoto everywhere. Like they have satellite plants everywhere in Brazil, and I think Peru, and various places. But and I think in Brazil they do it with sugar cane. So that might be I don't know, but I really don't think it makes a difference. And you don't have to use it. We're not forcing you to use
No.
a potential GMO if you don't want to.
Right, exactly. That's the beauty here. There's no recommendation run after you. You have to take this. I took it and it's good and everyone should take it. It's just not that's not the culture that we're dealing with here at all.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
just thought of an example I can give for people. So,
yeah, go ahead.
most of the people on the program know that unrefined sea salt is bad for you, right? Like it has, microplastics and heavy metals and toxins and everything like that too. I would put, but we use Jacobson's, which is very clean and it has been washed 11 times, and we're using it in small quantities anyways. So it's kind of like with the MSG, like it's been cleaned up. Okay. So maybe, yeah, it wasn't the best corn for you, but it's been ultra purified, and now it's nice and clean. So I hope that makes sense.
Right, right. This is actually, if I could talk about it quickly, that people argue against the approach because they're saying, "Oh, well, you're looking at a glutamate, and if you look at it in the body, which is impossible, by the way, because you don't want to open a live body and do that kind of gory vivisection stuff. But their
Mhm.
claim is that the molecule in the body is going to be different than the molecule outside of the body. And do you want to just speak to that a little bit?
I think I need a little bit more information about what we're talking about here.
Need to be a little more
Uh,
specific. Yeah. Maybe it's not a fair question. So it's just basically it's one of those natural health, I'll call it myths that you cannot study anything under a microscope and in a lab and have that be relevant to a living body. So that's the basics. I need more details to
Yeah, well, I think that's a bit too broad of a term. For example, like cell studies are terrible. So if you try to assume anything from a dish of cells and scale it up to a person, that often is not going to work out. And I know some people that can go in the opposite direction where they literally say there's no molecules, we're all just water, there's no cell structure, there's no periodic, did I say periodic table? Yeah, I've even heard that.
yeah.
And we're just made of jelly water and we're all just vibes. But I think that gets a little bit too far into it. And then some people think that there's no such thing as vitamins. So yeah, that's been interesting to hear people say that. And based on my education, I wouldn't say that's the case.
Exactly. Yeah, one of the biggest tells, actually, Garrett did a good video refuting the magnesium attack that recently happened, and so it can be a matter of convenience. They'll say, "Oh, this doesn't exist," until they want to make some term that use some term that is actually foundationally impossible to use as a concept without basic biochemistry. right? So there's this
Mhm.
convenient, oh, none of that exists, until they want to say a word like water, or something that really does depend on that knowledge. Anyway, I'm not doing it justice myself. I just was looking for ways to refute it. This is interesting.
Yeah, and
Quietly,
and I and I think,
go ahead.
it's, like, too simplified, like, if somebody says, "Well, viruses don't exist," and some people can get, really, like, we'll call them, terrain Nazis, could get anytime you mention, like, a potentially infectious disease, they'll be like, "Oh, viruses don't exist." It's almost insane, but something exists. There's something that is happening there that looks like little tiny pieces of whatever coming out. And we could talk about, forever what that is and if it's transmissible, etc. But it's just, yeah, it's simplified, and sometimes it's intellectual laziness, or they just hear, one of these doctors like Tom Cowan, or the terrain movement kind of leaders talk about it, and they get real zealous about that, and they just let them do their thinking for them, and they get a little rigid with that, and then sometimes they take it too far. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Terrain Nazis. It's not a bad way to say it. I want to go back just and let Quietly Content Bear know that I haven't heard from JJ yet. If anybody's on my Telegram and you're on my channel, the King Hero channel, don't message me there, because you can message me and I can reply once, but they won't let me keep replying. So there's no conversation available there. And so JJ, if you're hearing this, or Quietly Content Bear, if you want to pass the message on to because they think they've already private messaged me, but it's in a different place in their private messages, or email, just pass my email on or something like that. It seemed interesting to me, so I definitely want to connect. And let's see. Anonymous
Oh, I
guest.
want to answer this question about pesticides. Is that the next one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, y- yes, you avoid pesticides as much as possible and try to get organic and everything too. But you got to remember, and that's one of the things that blew my mind, from Dr. Smith, is thinking about this more. And it seems obvious, but it takes some, like, counterintelligence too. Is that there's a lot of pesticide in fruits and vegetables. Like, they don't want to be eaten. Any kind of plant can have some sort of pesticide too. So that's, they can't move like an animal can. They have to do chemical warfare, is something that he brings up a lot too. Thymol, anything that's smelly, polyphenols, bright colors, as kind of a warning. Aposematism, like, bright things are bad and toxic, but they kind of got us turned around with that. But I essentially would say that it probably has less pesticides than a carrot, than an organic carrot. MSG does. Okay, from when it's grown, because it's mostly protein. It's
Right.
99.95% pure, according to Hinomoto's data. It's very pure, and it's not like we're eating pounds and pounds of it, anyways. Even if it weren't so darn pure.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that you can't compare the volume. I have a pinch or maybe 2 pinches of MSG a day, compared to, you might have 7 carrots, or so. I don't know who eats 7 carrots, but I never did myself. And Stephanie also got great results with endurance, exercise endurance, and muscle growth after being stagnant for a long time using MSG. So yeah, fantastic. Really good. And yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm trying to be so discreet, Quietly Content Bear, but you already know what's going on, so that's good. That's behind the scenes. So I'm not trying to confuse anyone. And yeah, let's see. I think that's all the questions in the chat right now. Do you want to spend? I don't know if you have the time. Could we talk niacin and how that is brain food as well?
Sure, just briefly. So it's not really like food, like it's like energy, like we can burn it, but it does. We need its transferability. I'll just put it that way. We need a particular thing that it does, and that's NAD plus. So a lot of people have heard of that, and that's crucial to have NAD plus, and it provides it's the best, safest substrate for it. We can't just take N80 plus in everything. There's a lot of different niacin phonies out there, but literally the cheapest one that makes you itch and red is literally the best one, and it can power over uh, 400 and 500 different detoxification enzymes. So there's a lot of toxins out there. There's a lot of different chemicals. There's a lot of different ways that carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, etc., can be arranged to make different shapes. So we got to be able to detox a lot of things, and just in the process of living, we make our own endogenous, or we make our own inside compounds just from living here on planet Earth. And we need NAD plus for that. And literally, some people have posited that basically what aging boils down to is the NAD plus ratio going down. So you have more NADH than you have NAD plus. That's essentially when it breaks down everything else. That's the biggest factor in determining like your chronology and getting old and starting to be less about repair and starting to be see mistakes happen more and more, and wrinkles and aging and our bum leg starts to happen too. That's the crucial deciding factor that makes that happen. So in a way it's food, but it's also what helps us fight against entropy and the forces of destruction.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so not technically a nutrient then? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, not technically. It's it is a little bit like an amino acid though too. And this was my early kind of pitch to Dr. Smith. Is I showed him all these like amino acids, and I kind of told him because he doesn't like B vitamins. As an antidote you might need it sometimes, but overall we don't like them. But I was trying to tell him how niacin is less like like the other B vitamins that it was lumped into, and more like an amino acid in its structure, and a little bit too, because you actually make nicotinic acid from tryptophan. You can make it yourself. Of course, that in any kind of liver dysfunction that gets or protein. If you don't have enough protein, you won't have enough tryptophan, and you won't have enough to make your niacin either. But it does come from an amino acid too. So in a ways, it's kind of a little bit of a macro, and the quantity that you need is way more. Like the quantities in milligrams, even for by the government standards, 16 milligrams I think is the recommended daily allowance, versus like the other B vitamins that they fortify stuff with. Those are in the micrograms, so those are like 1,000 orders of magnitude difference between them, for example.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And are you okay for another question? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious about brain toxicity. So there might be a misunderstanding that the brain doesn't get toxic. We have a blood-brain barrier, when it's intact, but because of the leaky gut, the way that bile eats through could be biliary tubes or the small intestine or the large intestine, probably a variety more, and it literally ends up in the blood, therefore it ends up in the brain. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we have a blood-brain barrier, we have a gut barrier, we have a liver barrier, we have a bile barrier, we have babies have a placental barrier. These are tissues that are literally designed to stop the outside environment from coming in an uncontrolled way into the body. We have many layers of protection, and that's why some of these toxins that would kill a bug very quickly are fine for us, and we can say, oh, they're perfectly fine, and garlic's fine, and because we have this blood-brain barrier, and that's why they say, like, for example, like ivermectin, which is terrible for you. I ask people, how can this be a miracle medicine and also like literally a roach bait, and they say, well, we have a blood-brain barrier. It's like, well, you do for a while until it accumulates. So So yeah, so bile can disrupt that. The certain foods and compounds and toxins can disrupt those barriers. I was just thinking about this the other day, but my mom uh was a dentist all for her adult life, and she worked up until the day she gave birth to me with me inside of her too, and I got jaundiced from all that. So my placental barrier wasn't enough in that case. But yeah, those are all intended to protect you, but there's so many toxins that can start to erode that, and that can make anything that you're having more toxic, and that can be like the Trojan horse that lets other things through that wasn't the original thing that poisoned you, as well. So having leaky barriers is bad, and if you've got a leaky gut, that's eventually going to translate to leaky brain too. They're all similar tissues. They're all similar in origin when it comes to when you were just a tiny little a tiny little belly bean, like you were just a little clump of cells, and in various tissues had to kind of decide which way they wanted to go, and they are related tissue. Those tubes, it first started out as one little tube inside your clump of cells.
Right, there you go. And just with basic headaches, right? That's a kind of nemesis for people that get headaches. Is it safe to say that is toxicity in the brain?
Yeah, and I think again that it's a water balance thing, it's electrolyte thing, it's a lack of energy thing, and so yeah, essentially that can be caused by toxicity, ultimately, absolutely.
Mhm.
And then I'll give an example of brain clearing out, because niacin helped my son so much with his he had I guess you could call it, if you had to put a label on it, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric syndrome, or pandas or PANS. Maybe some of you heard of that. But basically, that's another thing. Oh, we don't know. The immune system just attacks the brain, right? Like, so, really? Okay. So, it sounds laughable to think about it now. Our immune systems being uh, so inept. But that pretty much cured him of that. He's still on the spectrum, but he used to get scared of everything. He had so much anxiety. He was so inflamed. But and if he had gluten, like he would get like behavior issues from gluten, because it was just basically leaking from his gut to his brain, and kind of reacting there. And with niacin, when I did some decent, after a while, he just got so much better. So that's why, although it can be difficult for people to do niacin, it could be you can push things too hard with it. It can overall clear out the brain. It definitely gets in there to clean things out, powers all the enzymes in the brain, and I have tons of studies for that. But and some people even report getting like a little bit of a drip, like a postnasal drip from niacin too. And I think I'm right about this, that that's literally like your the fluid that holds your brain, that's it getting kind of detoxified, and leaking out and going back into your stomach, because you do recycle that. But that's your brain getting cleaned out. So I think that's pretty cool thing that niacin can do.
Yeah, after the last detox that I had, that was at the snot fest and everything, I was just so clear that my brain was spewing, like letting go of crap. It's
Yeah.
surely intuitive, but it's right there, right? Like it's the fastest pathway out of the body.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. I wanted to point out that Kelsey did a great episode with me, specifically on ivermectin, since you had mentioned it, and that helped so many people, Kelsey.
Oh,
You
good. I'm glad to hear that.
know, yeah, not the ones that were religiously, staunchly into it. They turned
Yeah.
away. That they're in the cult of ivermectin or truth or drugs or all that kind of stuff. But the people who were open or on the fence, or they just heard it was great and they were doing it because they heard it was great, and
Mm.
they're being able to access real information here through you. It was extremely well received. So you helped a lot of people with that.
Good, because when I was doing that early on, before I was started talking to Dr. Smith, is that yeah, people can be very resistant. It was pretty amazing. Just like it might be hard to convince people out that eating all the eating the rainbow is good. Yeah, the ivermectin programming got really tough, and it was it was getting frustrated for me too, because there was just so much. Even when I would bring up the most, powerful points I had about Bill Gates being involved and it being literal roach poison, it was certainly hard to do that. So I like hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there was just one question I didn't ask from the chat. If toxins didn't cross the blood-brain barrier, babies wouldn't get autism, she's asking.
So if toxins didn't cross the blood barrier, so there's a placental barrier too. So keep in mind. So I was trying to give that example of like how, it wasn't common to be a woman dentist at the time and gestate a baby the whole time. I think my mom was like one of four women in her dental school, but nowadays 60% of babies are jaundiced. I heard that from Dr. Smith, but back in my day I was jaundiced before it was cool because of that. So she had extra toxicity that overcame my placental barrier, and then and maybe that's why I'm a little ADHD too, in addition. But and I guess that's one of the neurodivergence spectrums. But they've shown that babies that are jaundiced are like 30% more likely to get autism or ADHD or some kind of other, diagnosed with some kind of neuropsychiatric syndrome. So there is something that happens there where toxins get into the brain, and it's most obvious with jaundice, where it's very obvious on the skin and everything that bile has gotten out of control and kind of opened up the brain and made it more receptive to everything else, including the bile itself, which is going to be toxic as well. And yeah, it can cause or be it can exacerbate, or it can cause, or it can be one potential component of developing that. Yeah, I do think so.
Very good. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with us on either the brain or the breath or niacin or MSG or anything else?
Yeah, we didn't get to get into too much of the breath, but I just want to see it. Since discovering that I was saying I was struggling with fatigue, since discovering that I was having that issue at night, especially during my REM sleep, I have fixed my fatigue. So yay, or pretty much like it's taking some a little bit of gets worse before it gets better. That happened too. So, but overall, I think I found the missing piece, and I'm seeing it in a lot of my clients too. So I think it's very important. If you are been on our program, or just so if you do get on a program and you're having difficulty with fatigue, that could potentially be one thing that you want to look at to see if there's a problem, because 90% of people who have sleep apnea don't know they have it, and it's especially underdiagnosed in women. If you've got hypermobile disorder, I talked about that earlier, that could potentially be a literal mechanical issue. It's something that doesn't always get picked up on a sleep test. So even if you go to the trouble of going to the doctor's office, and I actually walked out of one. I might have discovered this earlier. I don't know. I may or may not have, but I couldn't even sleep there. I was just like, forget it. I was uncomfortable and in pain for 3 hours. I'm like, this is not happening. But it could potentially be something you want to look at, and even if you don't think you have it, just you might want to take a look. Like why not be rather safe than sorry? If you're going to get a fitness watch anyways, get one that's low EMF and just check it out and try to see if you're optimizing. Like, it's a third of your life, so let's make sure it's happening safely and comfortably for us.
Yeah, exactly. And is a CPAP bad for people, by the way? That machine that they put
No,
everybody
I
on?
don't think they are. No, it's not like, and if somebody, yeah, and thank you for this question too. If somebody had with their doctor with a sleep test, or through self-diagnosis, saw a really big problem with losing oxygen, and there's this, the medical term ischemia reperfusion. So that means like you're basically cut off from oxygen, and then suddenly it rises back up when you start breathing again, and that is more damaging to the brain than just maintaining like a low oxygen. That pushback where it comes back is definitely noted to cause more damage. So if if you're having that and it's kind of critical, it's gotten to a bad point, then I'm totally okay if somebody needs to do a CPAP like that. That's all right. That's not bad. That's not going to fix the problem. That's not going to fix the root cause of what's going on. Why is the airway collapsing? We weren't meant to live like that for our airways to collapse at night. Like that's a disorder. And you can give oxygen to somebody, but are you going to get them to breathe again and normally and functionally and the way and to breathe in their sleep the way they were meant to? No, but I think that can be a bit of a crutch that people can do if they're having trouble fixing the root cause, which can take longer.
Okay. And is the damage from the breath coming fast, is that just too fast oxidation?
Basically, so the body senses low oxygen. It's tried it. You're not, it's not getting the oxygen it needs. So it starts to prepare, and your body's very, it's doing a million things a minute, but it starts to prepare for low oxygen conditions. And then suddenly you find your breath and it comes back in. And then it's just like, it's not good. It can cause issues. And that back and forth is what can be harmful and very, very stressful on the body, the mind, and just we'll stop healing from happening. Basically, you're supposed to heal at night, and if you're constantly recovering from this back and forth, it's very difficult to get any of that.
Okay. Yeah, I had a family member that would wake up screaming. They could have definitely used a diagnosis and a machine. Yeah. Darn it.
Yeah.
Can you also talk about CO2 or CO2 tolerance, I should say, if I heard it correctly, that Rhonda, how do you say, Mulman, or how was her last name said? I don't
Holman,
remember.
Rhonda Holman.
Holman. She said that holding the breath out is good because it increases your CO2 tolerance. Do you know anything about that? I got her book, but I can't find a detail about it.
Yeah, so basically what she's saying is that, like, the body gets a little bit jumpy, or it can, and there's different forms of sleep disordered breathing, but that's one thing that can happen, is that the body gets scared when CO2 starts to rise, and will try to breathe too quickly and too weakly instead of deep, full breaths. And it's more of a panic emergency breath rather than the nice, slow, relaxed, full in and out kind of thing. So I think that's what she's meaning by that. And literally we don't breathe because we lack oxygen. Our body actually, we only get the urge to breathe because of the buildup of carbon dioxide. So I think that's an interesting distinction, is we can't sense the low oxygen. We sense the buildup of carbon dioxide instead. And if we're too jumpy with that, we're going to take weak, short breaths.
Very good. Thank you for clearing that up. My brain has had that question for a while now. Yeah. Somebody else is saying zeolite is full of aluminum. Should we go back there at all, or aluminum silicate? Do you want to give it?
No, I don't really. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to take it. How about that? I've yeah.
Yeah. Just don't.
You can look into our zeolite too, and why is it better? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you're scared of it, don't use it. Or research. Yeah. Exactly. AG said, as long as it's not nano-sized particles, the micro-sized rocks won't leave the digestive tract in the bloodstream. Yeah, nanos suck, eh?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't buy, especially don't get anyone that claim to go in the blood. That's not what it's used for. That's not what they feed to animals. That's not, you can do a lot of detox just by staying in the gut, and people don't realize that because of toxic biotheory. And we can understand that even better because we're understanding that the bile is a detox product, and if we can soak up some of that, that's going to improve the outcome a little bit. But you don't have to use it.
Right. Well, this has been fantastic, Kelsey. How can people take you up on consults at Nutrition Detective? I just told them how, but do you want to say anything more about that process?
Yeah. If if you'd like to work with me, then you can go on nutritiondetective.com and sign up for a consult, where we'll get our blood, our 4 basic blood tests from you, the only ones you need, and your first hair mineral analysis. And then we'll see what you've got going on and help you determine what supplements to take on your low toxin, love your liver diet too. Because again, that diet is your best tool to be getting better if you're dealing with chronic toxicity and deficiency.
Yeah, the diet is basically all I've used because I can't tolerate supplements. So it's literally just been a very, pretty tight, not 100% when I'll go out
Yeah.
now and again and if someone wants to
We're okay
feed
with
me.
that too. Like if that's your case, then I'll help you with that for your treatment plan. We'll talk about that more about your diet. So exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries, but I've made all of this progress. It's not due to supplements for anyone that's criticizing the supplement thing. I'm not a good customer on the supplements because I can't take them. And even some of them, yeah, you sell them and I can make them myself too. So it's not a supplement business going on. And I want to stress that when people get healthier, they need a lot less of even supplements. So this is not a business money making model, if
Right.
anyone's
Right.
criticizing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. We're not our own best salesman here, but yeah, we want to teach you, like Dr. Smith's first website was like doctorasteacher.com. Like we want to teach you what we know and to share this, and that's what's most important, is just learning and just unbreaking these kind of these brainwashing patterns and propaganda that we've been taught to think is healthy. That's actually not. And there's plenty of examples on it, so we can teach you how to feed yourself as well, and to think differently about what you're putting into your body,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. The indoctrination is so insidious and it was very hard. I literally specialize in helping people and myself to deprogram. And I was shocked how hard it was to let go of the natural health cult stuff. So it looks like now I hope I'm not talking out of turn, but it looks like I'm going to be doing a deprogramming and releasing group inside the Love Your Liver group to help people, to give them both opportunities to work on the physical and then the mental emotional side as well.
Yeah.
So that might help them move faster if they're having trouble letting go of that programming that we
Oh,
have.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great because there's a, emotional and spiritual component to it. It isn't all toxicity and deficiency. I don't mean to lump it all into that, but yeah, you have to want to get better, and there has to be some soulful healing too, as well as a component of this. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and you never know where like you can help from so many different angles because the physical does help the spiritual, mental, emotional, right? Even just adding
Yeah.
glutamates, I have a better brain. And a better brain means I'm going to not have such an aversion to my emotions. I might be, up in a higher courageous energy. So it all feeds into itself. There's really no barrier, so to speak. We just do that because of our
Yeah.
trainings and our professions. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then tomorrow we are doing that new video for toxic bile theory, so people can look forward to that. I think the most exciting thing for me about that is being able to send somebody to a current version of the knowledge that has evolved, which I personally, that to me gives it credibility rather than takes away. You guys are learning, you're cutting edge, and you're bringing your knowledge to the people. So that's going to be updated and available. And then, yeah, I think that's all. So, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining today. I apologize that I'm not on camera, but maybe it's better to match you.
It was fun. Thank you for having me on today.
My great pleasure. And so you can visit nutritiondetective.com. There is a great YouTube channel which just has gobs of information over the years. You can also see the evolution of particularly Garrett Smith, who does not look like the same person he used to, right? You can attest to that, I'm sure, Kelsey, because you've been around for a while. And a lot of people go and really binge watch at this channel get so much out of it. I never get tired of it. Every time I turn something on, I end up like, oh, I got to take notes. Oh, I just heard something I wasn't mentally able to hear before because all of the biochemistry was new to me. So it's a gold mine, even if you just get into the YouTube. I know people who have healed and got lots of results just with listening to YouTubes. But at the same time, I do recommend the consultation process with the testing and access to office hours, which can be as many as 3 times a week, you guys. Like, the value is off the charts with the ongoing assistance that you guys provide. So, yep, that's all. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're very welcome. I'll stay on for another minute or two just to recap the announcements I had at the beginning. And otherwise, lots of love to you, Kelsey. I hope you have a beautiful holiday Christmas. And thank you for all your work and the profound effect that it's having.
Okay, you're so welcome. And I'll see how to get you your zeolite soap for Christmas, okay?
Oh, yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye for now. All right, my dears. Well, that was really fun. I learned something there. And thanks for all the participation in the chat, which I always appreciated. Forgive me for my camera. I'm wondering if it's just simply an update. I'm going to try to update browsers. I'm going to turn my computer off for the first time in, I don't know, 18 months or something like that. I'm assuming it's just a glitch. I couldn't figure it out. I tried really hard to come on my phone, and it wasn't letting me do that either. So maybe it's a StreamYard problem. We shall see. And yep, so if you didn't hear announcements at the beginning, there's lots coming up, including in the House of Free Will tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. That would be, let's start with tomorrow. So tomorrow is not the House of Free Will. It's the Beth of Fresh Air podcast. I'm going to be hosting Dagmar and Sova to talk about the natural health cults and how to decult from those. And we're going to be showing from a number of different modalities that are, protocol-based and diet-based and all kinds of that thing. We're going to show what's useful in it and what could be let go that is unproven, that why it actually doesn't work. So I think that's going to be great. I don't have experience with a lot of the 27 lists that Dagmar sent me. So she's going to be speaking more to it, a little bit like an interview. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I personally love demystifying and deculting natural health because, boy, it's a mess. And then tomorrow, that was tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central. Then we have a private LYL meeting, Love Your Liver meeting in the House of Free Will for members only on Saturday at noon. We also have a members only Foundations of English Law series starting Monday, the 22nd of December at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. So that time zone is good for Australians. I want to say for the course that I'm starting in January, Creator Code, I made specific office hours so that the Australians who might have to get up in the middle of the night for the course will have access to a second time where they can ask questions and they can help, get help with the practice and clarification of the class materials. So it always gives me pain to schedule a live anything because I know I'm going to exclude some time zone that way. And I found a way around it. So I'm kind of excited. This is the link to Creator Code. This is about visioning and getting to a place where you can create from freedom rather than from fear. This is from my community. What I heard them say is, how do you create anything when you think the world is going to end? So that became the seed creation for me to say, hey, I can so help with this. Why? Because every time I've got stuck in my life, and that doesn't stop happening, I get out of it more easily using the deprogramming and archetype work. So this is going to be great. We have a beautiful group already starting to join, and the early bird savings of 50% off are in fact 50% on top of 50%, because I'm never going to be offering it at this low investment again. And I'm going to be asking for feedback from people in exchange for those really deep savings. If you happen to be a past Journey Code graduate, meaning you've been through my 7-month training to become a coach, then you enjoy an extra 50% off of this. So just in case you're hearing and you didn't see an email for some reason, then I want you to know that. And then also coming up, I am hosting Alex Michael, who is the conspiracy music guru, Monday at 11 a.m. That's the 22nd as well. That's 11 a.m. CST, since he's in Spain and needed that to be a little bit earlier. December 29 is Jacob Lieberman on the King Heroes journey, where we are right now. And like I said, December 29 is also the deadline for the early bird savings for Creator Code. So I think that's all I had to share. Thank you so much for being here. I really love Kelsey. Every time I have her on, I just admire her brain like crazy. Let's try not to get too personal about that. And lots of love. It does help me if you could like and share this. I often don't beg for that, but it's astounding when I get off these streams sometimes and I see there's less views than there was viewers. So they're mucking with the numbers in the back end. And so it would help me if you don't mind. If you got some value out of this, please do share it out with people. All right, my dears, I'm going to play us out with a track by my son. By the way, I'll just put up his, if you wanted to show any appreciation and go and just sub to his channel, he is SA1K0, or is that his 01? Anyway, he has a very badly named channel that you can't go find. And but you could look for him or ask me anywhere that I can be found. Telegram is a really good place to come. If you aren't on Telegram already, I'm going to grab quickly a link to my King Hero chat, where a lot of conversation takes place. We also have private groups for the House of Free Will and the Love Your Liver, but I won't share those because you have to be in the House of Free Will, which you could apply to be if you would like that. So you can find that at my website. And so here is that's my Telegram chat. I'll put that here. I'd love you to join us. You will run into Rose asking you about whether you're a bot or a real human or not, so don't get scared of that. It helps us keep the spam down. Thanks to AG, if you're still around, for helping with that. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So we will be back tomorrow, Dagmar and I, to talk about natural health deculting. I made that word up. All right, my dear. So I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening. And this is my son playing us out for now.